your story, how to write an effective statement of purpose. Before we do start, I will send the QR code and link for you guys to check in, and so you guys can get that form sent to you via email. And I will let Jason take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, McKenna. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I am Jason. Please call me Jason. I'm Jason Burrell. I am the one of the assistant directors at the School of Visual Arts and Design. I'm also a professor. I have a Master of Fine Arts in Drawing and a Master of Fine Arts in Painting. I teach drawing, painting, illustration, sometimes photography classes. I also teach in our graduate program. I'm going to jump into this talk about writing a statement of purpose. Please interrupt me at any time. Your asking questions is an opportunity to for me to change the tone of my voice. I encourage all my students in my face-to-face classes to ask questions so I can be more individually helpful. I'm going to be talking about statement of purposes a bit generically. So if I can help you make your specific statement, that would be a very good outcome for all of us. Your example will help your other attendees, it will help me, and it's one of the main lessons from today that you want to be specific. I've got a slideshow, of course, boring, boring, but it's got words in it, and I know some people they're more, they're visual learners or textual learners, so seeing things can be helpful. So this is my information. Invite you all to email me at jason.burrell@ucf.edu with any follow-up questions, and we can go from there. Except, of course, that I have begun my slideshow with the last slide, not the first slide. Um, let's try that. Let's try this, and we'll go back and have some fun with sharing screens. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so here's the slides. There's that email address again, jason.burrell@ucf.edu. One of the challenges to writing anything for any application is that you fall into a trap of writing what you think they want to hear. And that path is only a false path. That path takes you straight off the cliff into badness. Um, they want to get to meet you. Now, what really happens, I am, as a coordinator of our graduate program in Master of Fine Arts, I read several dozen applications every year. And so we need to get through them. And some of my colleagues, I get excited about meeting people, as you can maybe tell. But some colleagues are like, okay, this is work. And they just want to get through it quickly. They want to be done with it. So they are reading a little bit grumpy. And so writing what you think they want to hear is a quick way to go, oh, that's not it. They want to meet someone new. People are fascinating to people. So share who you are. That's a great summary right there. Share who you are. What are you already doing? What is your evidence? And just emphasize that. So here on the slide, if we look at the bottom, I've got the three first bullet points. I'll leave you to read those on your own. At the first point, I have always been passionate about art, and I knew how to graduate was the next step of my journey. Well, that describes everyone. That's not specific at all. I could be more specific. The sentence, I've loved art since I was a child. Well, I've never heard of a child who didn't love art. So getting passionate about it, being real is not going to be a generic sense that applies to every human being on the planet. Here, and the last bullet point on the slide is a AI generated example of what AI thinks is stronger. And it's partly right. And let's see how it's specific. After completing, and it's talking about what you do, not what you feel. It's talking about what you're doing, not who you want to be. So it's real. After completing a year-long series, oh, that's a flex. A year-long project? That looks great. Archival family photography through lithography. So it's very specific. Okay, you found photographs and you made lithographic prints. It's very specific. I know what you're interested in. I understand you have the skills of lithography, at least basically. Maybe you're good at it, maybe you're not, but it's real. And we can see how the specifics of the sentence are helpful. So before I hit the next slide, take a moment and just think to yourself, what are the things, the professional things you are already doing? It might even be stuff you read. That might be, I subscribe to certain video channels. I have a subscription, you probably don't have a subscription to a magazine, but you can talk about what material from the field you are feeding yourself. You can tell about the project that got you interested in your future, and that is specific. It is in the past, which is not the strongest thing to talk about, but it is real and that is strong. All right, excuse me. We're going to have some fun with, there we go. So here, this first bullet point is a big deal. Even right now, I'm dealing with, here in February, my third year MFA students are writing their thesis papers. And they all go through this process where they all write far too much biography. They're telling their life story. And I'm sympathetic. You're telling your life story is valuable. Never let anybody tell you your life story is not valuable. It is valuable. But in a graduate application, it's usually not that valuable. Um, and so my students, when they're working, they keep all the biography information. I say, don't delete this. Save this up to a cloud. What you in the future, you will want to use all this writing you developed. But in this case, in my case, we're talking about it being a fine artist. So where's you're talking about your art, where you're talking about your art working, how you work harder than other people, how you work creatively. And those start to be specific, they start to be field related. Again, we have another weak example where it's a very generic sentence. Who doesn't say things like this? Everybody says creativity is important to a child. But then when we get stronger, we've got my undergraduate work shifted from exploring media. I just was browsing YouTube. I was just, I was on TikTok all the time, to sustained investigation. And that's talking about how you're maturing. That's talking about this is very good. This is a really, please write this down if you're taking notes. How are you better than the average undergraduate? How are you an exemplary undergraduate specifically? All right, moving on. Evidence. What are the facts? Take a moment. I'm going to take off my glasses, close my eyes. What are the facts of my life? That almost every day I go draw. Not every day, but almost every day I draw. Even a little bit counts. So that I'm drawing almost every day is a fact. And it's real and it shows my actions, it shows my commitment. That's better than I like drawing. Vague. What are the actions? What is the proof? Quoting other people can be proof. It's not in this example on this slide, but my teachers, you know, when several teachers told me I was very good at this, that caught my attention. And we go, okay, that's a testimonial. If you can quote them specifically, when Professor Jenkins in my advanced drawing class, when Professor Smith in advanced chemistry said I could think about a career in chemistry, I was interested. And then suddenly, okay, well, it's a real person. We're citing Professor Smith. When you put in quotes, you could have a future in this, close quote. It's real. You're telling a better story. You're telling something I, as a reader, can believe in. Right. And then again, this is another way of talking about specifics. How do you turn what you've done in your past into a proof for your future? And one of the ways you can do that is you can talk about how it carries a skill forward. What did I learn? But specifically, how learning this changed my behavior. And that's a promise that you'll bring that behavior to your new graduate studies. And then the faculty sitting in their offices reading a PDF file on their computer screen will start being excited about your arrival in their lab, in their studios, working with them. Ah, this person could help me if they're a science faculty member. They might have teams of graduate students working for them. This person can take care of this kind of processing, whether it's research, whether it's writing, whether it's conducting actual experiments. What are your abilities? Now, standing out. This one's difficult. Most of my students have a hard time bragging. And they're not wrong. It's you don't want to brag. You don't want to oversell. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to be an egoist. But you do need to be accurate that you are strong at some things. That if you have a high GPA, GPAs exist for a reason. They exist because the process of graduate school application is comparing one person to another, which is can have a dark side. But we want to approach it with kindness. We want to approach it with open-mindedness and fairness and realism. So you need to be able to talk about what you believe is strong. And the best way to do that is just to provide evidence of why you're strong. What has people said? What are examples of prizes you have won? What are examples how you've accomplished a difficult task? And you do need to tell people you're strong. Many of my students harm themselves regularly by being quiet, by not standing up, by not sharing information, by not being honest. They'll talk about how the glass is half empty, but they rarely talk about how the glass is half full. And there's nothing wrong with talking about how the glass is half full. That's important. Yeah. And so let's take a moment and just in our mind reflect upon what is something you're good at. You know you're good at. You're proud of being good at it. You deserve rightfully to be proud. That doesn't mean that other people are bad. That doesn't mean somebody who's not good at this is invaluable or unvaluable. It means that you are good at this, and that's all it means. It doesn't lower other people. This is just stating a fact. What are you really good at? If you've been getting high grades, you're probably good at several things. You're good at being a student. You're good at thinking about your future. You're good about wanting a future. You've acquired these abilities, and some of them are appreciated. I know I'm a good writer because I've won, because my writings were accepted for publication. But there are other things, I know I'm a good person, or I know I've been valuable to my work environment because I've been told so, because the customers tell me so, because the customers comment on my kindness. I'm a bit like Albus Dumbledore. I aspire to be like Albus Dumbledore in some ways and to value kindness. Um, One of the secrets about graduate application is that you're asking to work with other people. And so the answer is, whom do I want to bump into at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday? Who's, going to be good company? Uh, and so it's not the rude person, a person who's nice, a person who's capable, a person who takes care of their business. What is the story of you taking care of your business? Now, we've reached slide number 8. I'm going a bit faster than I intended, but I'm just kind of excited and I've had some coffee. This slide is unlike every other slide in this show. Uh, Please begin reading it while I talk over. This is an excerpt. This is from a very famous paragraph in a book called Oh Lost by the author Thomas Wolfe. This book was written in 1928, and it's a famous paragraph because of the writing. It's writing about something that people kind of don't talk about. There are many romantic comedies, and you see people kind of being romantic and stuff like that. But this writing is about the inside of a person's life. When we watch a movie, we see an actor acting with the skin on their face. But this author, Thomas Wolfe, was trying to write about what was happening inside the mind of someone who from across the room sees a person and falls in love. Uh, Just FYI, again, this is written in 1929. So Chesterfields and Lucky Strikes are referring to cigarettes. The swirling vapors of pompous Chesterfields and arrogant Lucky Strikes is just talking about cigarette smoke. Back in the time of the 1920s, you could walk into a room and it would be filled with cigarette smoke wafting around. But as you read this paragraph, let's notice a couple details. He does use the verb to be. In fact, the third word is was, uh, but he's specific. He uses some delightful verbs. He uses some grateful, some remarkable modifiers. Fire, it's not just red, it's fire engine red. It's not just yellow, it's cornstalk yellow. It's not just a big room or a wide room. That room has a chasm that stand out. Also, he breaks some rules. He emphasizes by following the true human experience about just focusing on someone's eyes. He talks about her eyes too much. But that maybe is what happens when you're with someone whom you are infatuated with, whom, a dear someone. You pay attention to them a bit more than you'd pay attention to anyone else normally. And this it's awkward. Here he is falling in love and he starts thinking about ancient Greek poets. But that's a true kind of awkward experience to being human. So this specificity of the verbs that he was shattered he wasn't hurt. He was shattered. A verb not used often for emotion, but powerful here. It wasn't just silence, it was sure silence. Now, some of you might be applying for English master's degrees, you might be applying for creative writing degrees, which is quite wonderful. And working with language, knowing about Thomas Wolfe and Look Homeward Angel, his masterpiece, will be very helpful. For those of you not looking to go into a creative degree, having a sense of time and having a sense of poetry or being ambitious with your language is great. One of the things to notice about this, as we begin ending our time in this slide, is that he doesn't use extraordinary words all the time. Sometimes he just saw her eyes and just saw. Uh, uh, and he doesn't always go to the most elaborate word. He sometimes he has words that are really small and average, and that allows the big words to stand out. So think through what are the really, you don't want to use every big word that you possibly can. That is a way to look pompous. That is a way to look foolish. That is a way to look like you're out of control. There's a way to, well, yeah, we'll talk about AI in just a few moments. It's a dangerous thing to use big words all the time, but where do you deserve to use an extraordinary word? And please do look to do so. This is great. Many times I'll read student writing and they'll be like, I really want to be here. You guys are amazing. I hear you. You're the best. I think you're the best. And that's a sign that we're dealing with an immature mind. Uh, and here's a good example of how to elevate that thought, where you find out what exactly it is about the program that interests you. That you can maybe name a specific faculty member, which is a dangerous gamble, but it is a legitimate strategy. You can certainly look to know what the program in large is famous for and does. And if that is what you want to do, then you should definitely talk about it. But flattery is, again, is not the strongest approach. Fit is not flattery. Fit is very appropriate. It's specific and it's mature. Now, this one's in a very important slide. For myself and just myself, I tell my students I want them to use AI. AI will speed up their work process. AI will suggest things to them. The challenge is that if they use AI and they stop, they're fools and they're going to be presenting very, very weak materials. If you use AI, you must know and you must follow through on spending a good amount of time reworking it. I recommend using AI because for me, AI, when I use AI, I have to rewrite everything, but that still takes less time than doing it without AI at all. And I have to remember that I am responsible. I am the person putting my name on the document. If AI makes a mistake, it's become, and I don't catch it and I don't change it, I am responsible for that mistake because I am responsible for my documents. AI might help you get started, but you are going to need to rewrite your statement of purpose, your letter of introduction, your letter of research intent. You're going to need to rewrite that several times to make it yours. Let's get real with this for a moment. And if we look at the weak excerpt, through this process, I gained valuable insights that shape my artistic identity. That's a nice sentence, but it doesn't, what is your artistic identity? What is your valuable insight? It doesn't say, I'm not convinced that you've had a valuable insight or you have an artistic identity with this sentence. You're not mentioning it is problematic. It suggests I'm dealing with a poser. But the stronger excerpt, after abandoning a 6-month project that relied on symbolic imagery alone, I began prioritizing process-driven decisions that allowed form to emerge from material resistance. That is a much better sentence. But, dear attendees, there's an even better sentence. I haven't written it up yet. I'd like us to work through this together. Would you please reread this stronger excerpt and let's think through together how we can make this stronger? Because this is generated by AI. After abandoning a 6-month project that relied on symbolic imagery alone, just by adding the word, by changing a 6-month project to my 6-month project, we'll start elevating this. It's more personal. After abandoning my 6-month project, and you could change it. This is awkward. You could say something like where I relied on. That's again, naming yourself twice it can be dangerous. You can start having too many pronouns referring to yourself, which is dangerous and possibly bad. But if you haven't done it in several sentences prior to this one, it would not be a problem. Relied on my symbolic imagery alone. You could say, what kind of symbolic imagery? I'd be interested to know what symbolic imagery, what symbols are important to you, because that is very revealing. I began prioritizing process-driven decisions that allowed form to emerge from material resistance. Process-driven is good. It's sophisticated, very contemporary language. But again, you could be more specific than that. What process-driven? Are you more physical and the processes of your physical handling of resistant material in your hand? Or is it process-driven that involves thinking? These are two very different branches in creative fields, but if there are parallels in other fields as well, the sciences, are you more of a lab person? Are you more of a conceptualist? Are you an experiment designer? Or are you a beaker and Bunsen burner kind of scientist? They're both valuable. They have, but it's a chance for you to show off who you are. I hope this helps. Just before we move on, I want to remind you all that you're welcome to ask questions. Questions will help me make it more specific. A fun question. I'd love to hear a question. Here, let me give you a question. I'm a good teacher. I try to be. What's your field? Hey, Jason, could you tell me an example from my field? I'm interested in studying X. Hmm. Shy people. Moving on. Another way to help transcend AI, which is an important skill these days. AI will become a style, and AI will be a very popular style for about 6 months to 1 year. And then writing, painting, image making are all going to want to be very different. The pendulum swing against AI has already begun. It's weak, but it exists. and people are already starting to write in a way that definitely that highlights they are not AI. That a human being is the other end of this letter and this writing. And there we go. And this the difference between the AI sentence on the top of the slide and the human sentence where it's more specific. It's talking about their experience. The sentence lengths are different. Having a very short sentence next to a very long sentence is something AI doesn't yet do commonly. AI can do it, but it's not its default setting. And it's not as revelatory. It doesn't explain a human experience. What emotion were you going through as you were interviewing your hero? If you want to be a journalism, if you're a researcher and you're talking, I called them on the phone. What were the human experiences you had as you were waiting, listening to the ringtone? And that would be insightful to who you are. And it would highlight that we're not talking, the possibility that we're not talking to a machine. Proof and specificity, what you're looking to do with graduate school. In my case, our program, the one I coordinate, specifically asks for a letter of research intent. A letter of research intent is strictly forward-looking. We're not asking for your life story. We're not asking what you did in high school. We're not asking for the moment you became aware you wanted to study fine arts. We're asking what you plan to do with your future. This is always valuable content, even if they don't ask for a letter of research intent. If this is of interest to every process. This shows responsibility. It shows that you are not a passive student, but that you're an individual who has plans, who looks to make things happen. And all of those characteristics will make you far more appealing to a graduate program. Again, your origin story is valuable. I love my origin story. I've written it up. I use it in conversation sometimes. I use it in presentation sometimes. But an application to graduate school is not time for your origin story. That radioactive spider uh, doesn't actually say who you will choose to become. So let's avoid origin stories. Write it up, value it strongly. It's a wonderful experience. Um, Being appropriate. There, you can talk about things that are inappropriate in moments like this, in moments of stress. That can happen. So try and read the room. Um, Understanding your value, that if you talk about, I solved this problem, that's valuable. And then what is the result of solving that problem? That is even more valuable because it indicates what you'll do with the rest of your life. And again, generic is always wicked here. There you go. Maturity. This is our next to last slide regarding the standard your letter. You can focus. Being able to, the elevator pitch, the elevator test. Can you say everything that is most important to you in one sentence? It might be a short sentence, it might be a long sentence, both are fine. But to be succinct means that you're a person in control of your thoughts. You're a person who can manage social interactions. So try to focus on one sentence. Then you can elaborate, you can unfold that sentence. In my mind, I often think about the history of jewel making, of jewelry, where they'll have an extraordinary stone at the center of a necklace or on a crown, and then so much work. It takes more work to make the elaboration, to make the housing, than it takes to make the one initial jewel from the human's point of view, maybe not from geology's point of view, but you need a setting to show it off and to reflect all those little bits of light that will make a more complex experience than just a jewel or just a setting. Verbs. Verbs are your extraordinary friends. Verbs delight, verbs inspire, verbs inform, verbs transform, verbs motivate. Have fun with verbs. making sure that you're not lying or you're taking a branch. You won't lie, but you might misrepresent who you are. You might get excited about who you're going to be. Whereas your past, your curriculum vitae, your resume, your transcripts of the classes you've taken in the past might be something different. So if you're applying for a degree that is different from what you've been doing, which is fine, you should address that so that you don't look like misconnected. You don't look like the wrong file. Uh, if there is incongruity, you're a human being. Incongruity is allowed. People are allowed to change. People are allowed to evolve. There's a great history of evolving individuals being some of the greatest people, but to do so with consciousness. And this writing sample is your chance to talk about that. And if the statement isn't specific to the moment, if you're not naming an individual school, if you're not naming the individual program, that's a sign that you're going to be seen as generic. And you could really, when I apply for things, when I teach my students to apply for the teaching jobs they win, we always talk about how you mention the school you're applying to once at the beginning and once again at the end of your document, not just in one place, but in two. You may do that. I recommend it. Again, it makes you seem more concrete. I recently read a student's application where at the beginning of their letter of research intent, they mention UCF, and at the end of that letter, they say they're so happy to be applying to the University of South Florida. So they had meant to add me twice, but they're applying to other schools. Clearly, they made a mistake. Clearly, they're, a human at the end of it. That's not what AI would do. But it's informative. Try not to make a mistake. Try not to list the wrong school on your application material. Uh, this whole presentation, this whole half hour we've just spent together is worth that one sentence. Get the school right, and that will help. Clarity, specificity, and maturity. Those are what you strive for. If you can only, sometimes you live a busy life, if you can only remember a few things, these are the things to go for. You want to be clear, you want to be very specific, and you want to be mature. Show that you are an adult already doing the things, these exact things that you want to do, that you've already begun doing it. You will go on to graduate school, whether this school is lucky enough to accept you or not. If you're lucky enough to be accepted by this school or not, is a better way of saying it. You're going to achieve your dream and future. If this university will be improved. You will be improved if we can work together. This is the end of my slideshow. I hope this is helpful. I'm willing to review any part of it. I'm willing to answer any questions about writing, applying to graduate school, and how it functions. I'm very eager to talk also about our specific program, Studio Art and Design in Emerging Media at the University of Central Florida. Thank you for your time.
Where can we find this recording? Because it said that it was recording when I clicked on.
McKenna can help us with that question.
Yes, thank you. Once the video is done, I will save and download it, and it should be posted up to YouTube by the end of the week.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And I can send out the AAP link here at the end of everything in the YouTube links as well for you guys, so you guys can just click it and see it.
Okay, perfect.
I have
So
a
the,
quick question. Oh, sorry.
please.
Well, thank you again for giving this talk, but I had a quick question about, can you quote other people's words in your SOP, or should you let, like, the letter of recommendation speak for you?
That's a good question. Um, I am a coordinator of a fine arts program, so we are flexible and we're not very strict. We were looking for quality and excellence. I'm willing to read and believe quotations. It's a legally, significant thing to use quotes. So I'm fine with that. I could well imagine in some fields they might have a preference to not do so if you're pursuing a legal degree. They might prefer you to really separate components more clearly. I know this answer is a little bit evasive, Seda, but what degree are you looking to pursue?
So I'm in the biology area, so I'll be looking into applying into like lab-related roles, wet lab-related roles within the biology sector.
Sure. Thank you for that. That's helpful. And then I'm still going to remain kind of at the middle of the seesaw and tip both ways. Uh, yeah, I could. If you have any doubt or question about it, it's better to hesitate. Sometimes programs ask for multiple writing materials. They might allow you to have a letter of introduction, which would be fine to include quotations, which is fine to have a little bit of biographical information. But since this is a science, I could imagine they might have slightly stricter rules about keeping content divided. Not as strict as a legal program, but so if you have any doubt, then keep it. If you're unsure, keep it a little bit. Follow the rules a little bit more stringently.
Got it. Thank you.
You're most welcome. But again, in a creative field, I would imagine they love it because it's a change of voice. You just experienced that when I kind of was going on in the same tone. You're like, oh, my attention's wandering. But then I'd pop in and go, hey, Star Wars. And suddenly people go, whoa, what? And, it helps from a purely artistic human writing strategy.
I have another question.
Sure, Tiffany.
Okay, for example, like I want to apply to medical school, so for the purpose statement, you obviously have to explain why you're interested in being a doctor. That's fine, but like I don't really have like a specific interesting story to tell that like led me to this path. And I feel like admissions committees like usually sort of want that. So how would you stand out if you don't really have like an interesting story?
Sure. Tiffany, that's an awesome question. I don't say all questions are awesome, but sometimes I do. And so far, we're batting 100. Um, there's still something interesting. You might not
Okay.
know of an interesting story, but you might have one. So you could take some time to think it through and talk with people, talk with your family, talk with your friends, talk with your favorite teachers or who know you well, and ask them, "Hey, I'm applying to med and be direct. I'm applying to medical school. I got to write this thing. A story can make a difference. What story do you know about me?" Now, even if a story does not emerge, you're still interesting. You're a human being pursuing excellence. You're a human being pursuing a competitive profession. Why are you doing that? The answer to that question might be your interesting thing, that you
Okay.
are inherently, ambitious, that you are, what is the proof of you being ambitious? The application to medical itself isn't the strongest thing because you're still applying. You haven't won it yet. But think about examples about why you're doing it. Think about it might be that some image of the future, that you are motivated when you think of yourself being in medicine, certain details in your life come together and you are willing to make sacrifices to make that happen. And so your story might be in the future, but you're thinking about it now. That can explain motive very well as well. Did this answer the
Wow.
question for
Thank
you?
you so much. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Let me ramble on for just a second. Like trees are fascinating. I love trees. Trees are beautiful. They're important. I feel heroic. I think of trees heroically. I think trees are amazing. But nothing is interesting to a human being as another human being. Um, we connect, we understand each other, we have a lived experience beyond any tree's ability to understand or communicate. And so you can think about yourself not just as a doctor or whatever you're going to be in medicine, but who as a person are you? And sometimes strength comes from that. All right, cool.
Perfect.
You're most welcome. Keep them coming. Any other questions?
I had a quick question. With personal statements, I feel like it's really important when someone gets done reading, someone's statement to have that lasting impression of wow. Do you have any advice to help any students kind of writing that part? Thank you.
Ab- McKenna, absolutely. Thank you. Um, uh, a couple details to think through that I've not yet mentioned is to please think through the first noun and the first verb they will read. Beginning with a pronoun is usually quite weak. Beginning with a cliche or something that's obvious is usually a way to just announce that you're going to be boring. So try not to begin with I. Try not to begin with a thought. Ever since I was young, that is a horrible way to begin any written statement in any part of any application. And conversely, endings matter as well. You want to end, think about the last verb and the last noun that will be in your statement. For example, in the slideshow we just saw, it ended, the last word was shattered. Eugene, the character, had seen someone from across a room. He thought she was extraordinary and he just instantly had a crush or fell in love. But he also knew everything was doomed. She would have nothing to do with him. It was the relationship was not going to happen. And as a young man, it was his first experience of that. And so to end on the verb shattered or gerund shattered is powerful. It's the lasting, it's the result of the whole exchange. So what will be your last verb? What will be your last noun? Don't make them average. Don't make them boring. Make them, those are places to have the first verb and noun, the last verb and noun. Those are fine opportunities to have something extraordinary. There are ways you can break that. You can begin with something a little boring, knowing that at the end of the first sentence, you're going to be doing something extraordinary. And they start reading something that sets up and says like, this is like what everybody else writes. But before the sentence is over, it becomes extraordinary. And then it will be meaningful. It will be powerful. It will be memorable. It will be persuasive. For me, like I ended my slideshow. Okay, I'm a teacher. Quiz time. Does anybody remember the last word of the slideshow that I said?
Was it maturity?
Nope. That was the last point. So you should get a half point for that. That is good. And that matters. That's a theme to your letter of introduction, your statement of purpose. A bunch of kids are applying. Ooh, I've got something to say about that in a moment, but let me stay on target because I can forget myself. The last word I said was together. We'll do this together. And I chose that. I made that point of doing that intentionally because I wanted to segue into this time. I want us right now, all of us to be through Zoom. I want us to be together, to be real. And that involves some of you sharing. I know a couple of you are going to be completely silent, and that is cool. But I know a couple of you will take a risk. You'll ask questions. Thank you, Seda. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Priya. And that helps. That helps our communication. That helps your other members of our call. Let me go back to that point that I want to follow up with. Many people applying to graduate school are applying to graduate school because they're afraid. They've been students all their lives. And people applying to graduate school, they've been students all their lives, and they're usually good students. They like it. They get emotional support. It helps them defer taxes to be students. It helps them to have a role in society that is laudable. To be a student is approved by this society. And they don't know what else to be. They don't know who they are yet. They've done all the assignments. They're getting all the green check marks. They have very good attendance, but they don't know who they are outside of school. And those students who are a little bit lost, those students who are who are only eager to please, don't often make the best graduate school students. Graduate school students sometimes are people who've been out in the job market for a few years. They got an undergraduate degree, they went into a profession, and now they want to climb to a higher level of that profession, or they want to change profession. But that time away from school has made them much stronger individuals. They sometimes, not all the time, those people have advantages. And so whether you're a student or whether you've had time away, you want to show that you're ready for graduate school, that you now, instead of like, teacher, tell me what to do, I'll do whatever you want to do. That is not a great graduate student. A great graduate student is someone who initiates new knowledge. This is the difference. Are undergraduate students are here to learn. They're here to learn what we have all learned together, the great, wonderful legacy of knowledge that has come from the past into our lives and helped us today. We have cars, we have vaccines, we have satellites. I'm not sure I could make a car, a vaccine, or a satellite, but because of chance and timing, the person who made, Ford couldn't have made a car without the Industrial Revolution that began long before him in Scotland. Scotland couldn't have made the Industrial Revolution without the Enlightenment, which happened in France. And we're all benefits. It just goes on and on, this wonderful chain. Graduate students and doctoral students create new knowledge. The point of your degree will be to write a thesis, will be to conduct experiments, to go into the field, to go into a writing studio or a painting studio and create something totally new. And you will add to this chain of knowledge. It's quite wonderful. I love it. And are you ready for that? If you're mature, if you initiate projects, if instead of just reading a book is good, you need to read a book, but will you email, will you call, will you connect through LinkedIn with the leader in the field? Will you call the greatest painter today and get a rejection letter? They're not able to come to UCF, but will you ask? Okay, so number one said no, and now we're moving on to number two, and we're just going to go down the list. And you help your university become better. You yourself help your value to your community by bringing in the best research. Does this make sense? Cool.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and then now I have wonderful news for you all. You don't actually have to do it alone. You'll have teachers who will help you do that. You'll be like, I don't know how to do this. I want to write to, I want to write to Ansem Kiefer, one of the most, I have like 6 books on the top shelf. They're not just regular books. The Ansem Kiefer books are like really big books. They're so expensive. He is the most prestigious, most expensive, most notable living painter of our times. Well, you'll come to me or you'll go to your other teachers and we'll talk about, well, you need to know them. A favorite story of mine is one of our film students. I didn't know this student individually, but for a while I work with my film faculty colleagues, and they tell the story of, what's his name? Thin Red Line. Hang on one second. Let me do this thing. I know it's annoying. Who did I know? Terrence Malick. Terrence Malick, a very famous movie director, if you're into fine art movies. He directed The Thin Red Line. He directed Days of Heaven. He directed The Cup of Nights. He directed Tree of Life, is a notable movie of his out 20 years ago. And so this one student, a UCF student, was in love with movies by Terrence Malick. They're unlike movies by anybody else. They're elegant. They're important. He talks about what it's really like to be alive. And so this person researched Terrence Malick. He read interviews. He talked with the faculty. And for 6 months, this student here at UCF worked on a letter to Terrence Malick. He ended up handwriting. He wrote it, rewrote it, rewrote it. He took it to faculty. He rewrote this. He wrote a letter by hand, folded it on a piece of paper, sent it in the mail. Terrence Malick received this letter. And he said, well, I'm here in Los Angeles working. If ever you're coming out, let's meet. It'd be great. I'll take you to a lunch place I know. And this kid said, well, I'm going to arrange to come to LA to meet you. I've got a list of questions. And he spent months preparing the questions. And they had lunch. He had lunch with Terrence Malick, one of the most important directors working today. And Terrence Malick was so impressed with this person. This student, this former UCF student, now works as his assistant editor. He helps, he's one of the voices who helps shape the voice of Terrence Malick's films. And we will help you do that here. You will come, you'll be like, I have a goal. I don't know how to achieve it, or I know partway how to achieve it, or I have a plan. Could you help me make my plan better? And your faculty should help you. That's our job. I love doing that. When I teach a graduate class, my graduate class begins, welcome to class. This is a graduate class. What are you going to do? The student's first assignment is to write up what they're going to do. It's not me coming in, today we're making an assignment about trees. I love trees. Let's talk about trees. That's me. That's me projecting onto them. That is, at a graduate level, that is bad teaching because I am suppressing my students' individuality. I'm suppressing my students' voices by giving them or loaning them or covering up their voice with my voice. And my students say, well, I'm going to make one painting. And I'm like, that's not enough. You're going to have to make 6 paintings. Or a student come in and say, I'm going to make 200 paintings and change the world. I'm like, we're going to dial that down. Let's see, we're going to make, let's aim for 10. Let's try, let's see. And I have a student, a former student, who's who's a very great artist locally. He hasn't made it big yet, but there's hope. In 72 hours, he can make 36 artworks. And then he has to take 48 hours off. He comes into the studio, he makes 36 artworks in 3 days, and then he goes away for 2 days. He just sleeps and plays video games. And then after 48 hours, he comes back in the studios for another 72 hours. That's his process. He's crazy and inspiring. And you'll have a chance to define yourself, to work with professionals, to name your goals as you approach graduate school. We're hitting the 52-minute mark. Does anyone have any questions, please? Fair enough. I've shared with you my email. Again, jason.burrell@ucf.edu. Please feel free to be in touch with me in the future. You might need to remind me who you are. And I'd be delighted to help in any way I can. It's part of what makes me a teacher and wants to be here. You're on your life journey. Congratulations. Continue to do things like you're doing today. By participating in a workshop like this, you're helping feed your mind. You're helping plan smarter activities. So you'll use your most precious commodity, your time. You'll use your time more effectively for these words. Thank you, McKenna, for being here and helping arrange technology and helping arrange the video recording to go out to people so they can reference this again.
Jason, thank you so much. This was an awesome and not only informative but inspirational presentation. So thank you so much for coming to speak with our students today. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to end with one thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
This thought comes to us from Michelangelo, the great, great sculptor, one of the top, some people definitely top 100, maybe the top 10, maybe the top 5 artists of all times, whatever. Michelangelo, the great sculptor, the sculptor who made the statue David, said that the sculpture is already in the block of stone. The sculpture is already in the block of stone. You just have to release it. The answers many of you are facing is actually your name. Priya's questions, some of Priya's questions are answered by Priya. You are already your answer. The act of getting it outside of you. Michelangelo had to carve stone away with hammer and chisels. You will have to use your fingers and Microsoft Word and just type about yourself, and you will release yourself. That's it.
Yes, thank you so much. That was also amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
That
you.
Ooh,
That was amazing.
goosebumps. Yes, thank you so much for an awesome presentation again. Students, thank you so much for joining. Jason, I left his email in the chat as well if you need that or want to reach out to him.